Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hi. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Lucy Norris, and I'm here today to talk about fashion and the wild woman. Okay, so in this phallic-centric world of the patriarchy, and this egocentric reality constantly looking to feed the id, both nature and the female are put out there. Seeing nature as separate from ourselves means we leave ourselves. We leave the universe from which we came. This talk is not about how beautiful women are or how beautiful nature is. Nor is it about how savage nature is or how dangerous women are. This talk is about that in-between space where no one dares go. This talk is about the wild woman and those fashion designers and creatives who have dared to walk alongside her, to protect her and to express her place not only in this world, but as the world itself. As fashion is evolving, so too is the portrayal of the woman. Christopher Kane is one designer where we can track this evolution. It can be tempting to put nature under the microscope and treat it as a part of science. So alas, when the female and nature come together on the runway, we often see minimalist portrayals of these combined worlds, resulting in women becoming walking Petri dishes. It can feel cold, clean, highly stylized, and highly sanitized. But how about looking at nature and the female through an emotional lens? Perfect in its imperfection, 4 years later, and Christopher Kane tracks something far more wild, mysterious, unhinged, and truthful. Arguably transgender, it's offbeat, it's egoless in its desire to appeal, it's brambly, and it's windswept. The 20th century gave birth to modernism and the idea that women needed to be sold clothes in a similar way to how men like to buy our cars. Deliberately sexist, all knowing. Like a conveyor belt, near identical mannequins in terms of body type, race, and height walk something which we call a catwalk. Narrow enough for a cat to navigate, even the name of the stage upon which these women walk is aligned with the idea of the feline quality of a female. Something mysterious, dangerous, and aloof, something wild. Yet this is a woman, no longer a woman, but a mannequin. She is something trapped, but bred and picked to order. These women are like commoditized curiosities that are unknowingly thrashing around in their own psyche. Or birds trapped within a cage. Surrealist/sexist notions of women being the walking subconscious, responsible for all that was unstable, anxious, and predictable in the world, are depicted here at Alexander McQueen. Dressed in feathers, it seems that her garment, and her unknown quality of wildness is set to explode out from the cage. The first step to freedom is to know that you've been placed within a cage. McQueen tracked this by moving the women out of their cages and having them placed on top of their heads, as if they were at once crowns. Designing for women that are conscious of the cage is really where the fun begins. With Sean Lean designing the jewelry, which depicted thorns adorning her throat, she is here at once playing the role of freed captive and primitive aggressor. For his Voss collection of Spring-Summer 2001, models were photographed being attacked by birds. Their heads were bound and wrapped. They were products yet from another time and age. But they weren't being attacked by an outside source. Nature was being here used as a metaphor to articulate how we beat ourselves up on a daily basis via our subconscious. The mannequin here, the working model inside the modernist system, was being taunted by what she is told by the patriarchal power modes, that she is the outsider. And again, the surrealist notion that all women are crazy is somehow kind of imbued here as well, and that they somehow also embody the crazy extension of the conscious male mind. Trapped within a box, the audience could see these models, but they could not see the audience. Beholden, perhaps, this was even perhaps a metaphor for desire itself, the mass consumer propaganda mission, where we're all being told that we need to keep buying clothes in order to be identified as the self. It's drummed into us by Freud's nephew, the founder of Piano Less. This whole kind of concept is somehow swooping in and taking the mannequin itself as its victim. Tippi Hedren, the starring actress in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, was a huge inspiration for Alexander McQueen. The chicest of mannequins, she's even had a Barbie dedicated to her. But of course, the darker side to the narrative, and the one which links her to Alexander McQueen, is that this is a mannequin, a doll, and an actress, again, being attacked by birds. In spring 1997, Alexander McQueen even created a collection entitled The Birds, which saw models including Mr. Pearl, model and sort of Tippi Hedren style sort of tailoring on the runway. And if you observe the print, we'll be looking at how this too came up in his work in later years. Now, Tippi worked with real birds on set, but she was about to have her wildness turned against her, in a similar way to McQueen's Voss's collection, but this time with real birds. Now, for anyone scared of birds, I suggest you look away now. So, as an actress, she was subjected to, of course, many things that lots of actresses wouldn't stand for nowadays. But this is probably the scariest scene in the movie, and this was actually shot using real birds, where she was locked in a room. This fear is real fear, and these scratches that we see here are real scratches. Obsessed with Tippi Hedren, and let's say a little upset about her refusal to accept his advances, Alfred Hitchcock, in a bid to control Hedren, blocked her from working with any film studio for the next 20 years, effectively destroying her career. Attempting to own the mannequin, he also attempted to own the bird itself. But back to Voss and a much more upbeat angle. What if the female is not the victim of anything at all? What if she is in alliance with nature? What if she is nature itself? In an empowering and highly evocative manner, McQueen shows Karen Elson erotically devouring the thorns and berries of a shorn, lean jewelry piece as if she was a witch, as if she was magic and utterly uncontrollable. Just as we try to put nature outside of ourselves, we know Mother Nature to be far greater and powerful than any ego or human. And linking in with the pagan roots of the female as powerful goddess linked to nature like no man, this was McQueen directing Karen Elson to at once shock and turn the tables once more. Marilyn Monroe operated within a postmodern paradigm, the pin-up of pop art. She was an object who all-knowingly objectified herself. She knew that her power was the same power that lay within nature, desire. And desire is what makes the world go round. Sex, call it what you will. Without it, nothing in nature would happen. So let's not shame it. To shame that would be to shame nature. Pictured here as if she is married to the earth, she resembles Freya, the pagan goddess of erotic love, free, wild, thrill-seeking, and free from man-made constructs such as marriage. Loving men, without a doubt, but loving men, how men are now glamorized as they should love women today, from a place of freedom. Now, this picture of Marilyn Monroe holds parallels with other modern-day depictions of Botticelli's Venus, freshly risen from the sea and dangerous in her desire of herself and others. And as soon as Ursula Andress emerges from the ocean within James Bond's Dr. No of 1962, she's immediately objectified as fodder for the male. She is beautiful, not wild. She is a potential possession, like a shell that one might collect. And that's why the world needs Rihanna so much. Photographed here for the front cover of Harper's Bazaar, the bad girl of popular music is not being eaten by a shark, but she is lounging with a shark. She is questionably the shark itself, and one most men would be positively afraid of. She owns her sexuality, like the nature that she is born from, like the fable of the hare and the tortoise. She refuses to go against her nature. Equal measure masculine and feminine, the divine feminine, the wild woman holds it all. And I think she also has a shark tattoo, actually. I think I discovered that on Google earlier on. A little bit of an aside. So, of course, if we think of the ultimate outsider within the animal kingdom, then it is the wolf. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who is the author of Women Who Run with Wolves, she was the lady who coined the phrase wild woman within populist feminist culture. She believes that women are inherently disconnected from their true wildness, and that the wolf is the female's ultimate spiritual archetype on this planet. Deeply loyal, but fierce, protective, demonized, and put out there, the wolf and the female share several shared experiences and traits. As Instagrammed this year by feminist ambassador Emma Watson as being a must-read on her 2017 reading list, Maya Angelou also describes this text she promotes this text by saying, everyone who can read should read this book. In the year 2000, Alexander McQueen had Kate Moss appear with 2 live wolves at the end of his show. Wearing a lilac cape, fairy tales and the story of Little Red Riding Hood came to mind. But this time, instead of getting eaten by the wolf, this was a badass model who was friends with them, who walked with them, and who ran with them. Alessandro Michele, the creative director of Gucci, is often inspired by literature and fables, and for Spring-Summer 2017, the show's audio soundtrack included William Blake's poem, My Pretty Rose Tree, being read over and over and over again by Florence Welsh. Now, within the poem, there was talk of his lover, described as a jealous rose, being in a position where she felt so envious of him possibly picking other roses that she would only show him thorns. It reveals Blake's notion that a woman could somehow be possessed like a flower, and Gucci's woman rebelliously resembled a grotesque, punkish take on the rose. Instead of thorns, ruffles and pleats were like armor. Suitors get past this at your peril. And of course, the only woman who dared actually, or one of the only women who dared actually wear calm recently at the Met Gala was Rihanna herself. And this is a design by Comme des Garçons from last year, again using that same mechanism of floral ruffles as armor. North of the wall, it seems our very own Game of Thrones type world is finally respecting the idea of the wildling. Here at Chanel, it's interesting to see how the wildling is being articulated, but the wild woman is being taken away from her place of instinct. You can see the actress's sort of kind of demeanor here, but actually at Chanel, she was at once a mannequin wearing the outfit of a wild creature. I've been fascinated for a while about this idea of metaphysical materialism. It's a phrase that I've coined. It's this idea of almost transcendental dressing, where the material world and the universe meets in the middle somewhere. Modernism's biggest fashion export is the little black dress. But what if it isn't the little black dress at all? What if it's the big black dress? Modernism may have tried to pattern cut the universe and make it into its very own mannequin, but the colour black, that colour that contains it all, is the mysterious darkness that sits outside of form, the universe and the great Tao, as referred to by Taoists. This divine feminine, omnipresent force is something that few humans dare to sit about and talk about. But surely this should be our only subject of conversation. As well as existential questions around consciousness, I covet self-expression within the material world and how we consciously and subconsciously express ourselves within this theatre we call life. Fashion, a never-ending death of sorts, is obsessed with the colour black, and perhaps it's only the Japanese designers, such as Yohji Yamamoto and Rei Kawakubo, who can truly understand that it is the colour of birth and creation, the colour of creativity, the colour of infinity. Perhaps that's why we all wear it so avidly on a subconscious level. It offers anonymity, yet at the same time strength. The strength of the universe, perhaps, a womb of sorts. The wild woman is intrinsically connected with this strength. For autumn-winter 2017, Comme des Garçons' sculptural collection saw abstract shapes resemble hemoglobin cells and silver globules encircle a painted pink backdrop. As I sat there at the show, I wondered to myself, was this the womb? Was this outer space? Was it both? The Tao as the womb of creation was here played out by the most famous of Eastern modern-day designers. In terms of postmodern dead systems within the patriarchal realm, surely war has got to be right up there. And this was exactly what Comme des Garçons was addressing with this collection entitled War of the Roses. As I sat and reviewed this show on a live panel in SHOWstudio, Nick Knight was on the panel with us, and he looked across at us and he talked of the look on the left, and he said, well, that looks like a vagina. Well, whilst I observed that the panniers of a dress looked like torpedo tampons, Ray Kawakibo may veer away from the label of a feminist designer, but this collection undeniably contains an anti-war message. And she used the colour of blood, appliqué roses, the shapes of crustaceans from the sea, and otherworldly silhouettes from our Tudor history books as her protest sign. As I said before, wildness isn't about conventional beauty. It's about the divine feminine essence which contains it all. It's untamed, it's messy, it's real, and it's nature. A woman's mysterious connection, which she holds with the lunar cycles, was depicted by a piece designed by Sean Lean for Alexander McQueen. And here we have Lucia Prada, autumn-winter 2016. The show notes spoke of her abandoning the Gregorian calendar in favour of the pagan one, the goddess calendar. She spoke of things like wild roses and just this idea of goddess culture. There were plush velvet dresses embroidered with handwritten floral brambles, whilst the girl's hair was Ophelia wet. Like pirates upon a ship, they wore pouches, steel cap boots and linen corsets. Complete with the eponymous Prada circle skirt, these women were never in danger of abandoning their femininity. These were explorers who were aware of their power to seduce and pick a pocket or secret map or two. Other looks within the collection saw cosmic landscapes come alive on women's dresses as if they transcended time and space. And aligned with the huge, as my friend Ruby Warrington, the founder of the Numinous, likes to call it, the Now Age movement. This is Ruby Warrington here, the blonde lady on the right. She was the fashion features editor for Sunday Times Style in London. She quit her job, moved to Greenpoint in Brooklyn, and has set up basically an astro, cosmic, divine, feminine type amazing website. And they run this amazing club called Moon Club, where they get women together to manifest on the day of the new moon, that we should be looking at our moon sign instead of our sun sign, just basically moving everything towards the divine feminine. And this is Ruby's new book, which is called Material Girl, Mystical World, where she believes that fashion and the divine feminine and, you know, all those kind of magical, wonderful things can sit in one place. Now, whilst a woman is often portrayed in the world and in the arts as either a victim or seductress, the woman is often used as a metaphor for the ravishing nature of nature itself and the persecution of Mother Earth. With the Instagram world aflood with memes such as, I didn't think I could handle the storm until I realised I was the storm, we are also reminded of the two sets of fashion photographs by Stephen Meisel and Peter Lindbergh. Now, this photograph we're looking at here is from a set of photographs entitled Los Angeles, taken by Lindbergh, depicts Amber Valletta. She's almost like an android type sort of mannequin that at once sits outside the scene of the crime. She kind of questionably is the scene of the crime and arguably the perpetrator itself. Neither victim nor criminal, she is everything at once and nothing at all. A mysterious voyeur, an unknown force. She parallels that of the force of nature. And this is her sort of leaving the scene of the crime, walking through it, at once visible yet invisible. And there are similarities here with the photograph by Ruth Orkin from 1951, entitled An American Girl in Italy. This idea of being an alien within another country, or here within Lindbergh's photographs, a woman being an alien within her own planet. Which takes us to probably one of the most powerful photo shoots made arguably within the modern era. And this is by Stephen Meisel for Vogue Italia. It features Kristen McKenemy embody the pain and trauma of the ocean's sea life that it suffered at the hands of the then recent oil spill. She is pictured choking on oil, laid washed up on a shore, weeping the tears of all the birds who could no longer fly, the fishes who drowned, and the ocean who roared in distress. As Kristen's natural grey hair flows over the rocks, the title of the fashion story and the front cover was called The New Wave. Now, this threatens to undermine the credibility of this artistic statement. It's as if planet consciousness is a new trend in fashion. But in defense of Meisel, a photographer who is infamous for taking on huge subjects that sit outside of fashion, he uses the medium of fashion photography to wade into controversial subjects such as mental health, plastic surgery, military conscription, and our love of plastic. So the female is often positioned within the sort of fashion imagery as a protector of sorts, protector of nature. And I guess there's no better designer that's kind of doing this right now within luxury fashion than Stella McCartney. This famous advert here kind of depicting kind of all these little cute Disney characters, and then she's got her sort of vegetarian leather sort of clutch there. Now, I interviewed Stella recently, and it was just so wonderful to basically be able to talk to her about this idea of being a woman and this idea of being engaged with the planet. And she said some very powerful words. She feels it's important that she creates fashion from the space of being a mother and loving human being. She said, I'm not only a fashion designer, I have a husband and 4 kids. I have an aim of responsibility and honesty, and this idea that you can't just leave those values at home, which I thought was really powerful. For McCartney, truly modern fashion is not just about being, as she says, so this season, but about making ethical and sustainable choices. She said within my interview, I can design a dress that people dream of in 3 months' time. I can be modern and on-trend in that sense. But actually, beyond all that, there's a different kind of modernity that's driving me in partnership with great design. It's about the bigger picture. It's about the future of our world and how we can help impact that. And that's the thing that she finds most exciting in her work. So as the female is often positioned within fashion imagery as being a protector of Mother Earth, she's also sometimes positioned as mourning Mother's Earth, and almost sort of kind of communicating the planet's pain through a sort of supernatural kind of lens, you know, that sort of, as I said, that innate connection that the wild woman has with the planet. And here we have that incredible video, Chris Cunningham video, for Madonna's Frozen, where Madonna engages with this idea of species transvesticism. She's at once a crow and a woman. The pieces that she wears within this video are designed by Olivia Thieskens, and it's this idea of even linking with a sort of a Victorian kind of mourning aesthetic. So like Mother Earth's Swan Song, you know, we even have, again here shot by Peter Lindbergh, this idea of kind of maybe this is, you know, is it a female swan song? Is it Mother Nature's swan song? This idea of female and tragedy and nature engaging. But what I think is really interesting is when kind of really intelligent sort of image makers really engage with the sort of multifaceted kind of dialogue that can kind of happen when we look at the female and nature. It's not that the female is a victim, and I think to portray her as a victim in that sort of second wave feminist sort of cul-de-sac way of thinking is sort of a quite limited belief. You know, it's all about kind of sort of looking at how we're part of things, and as I said, the female holds it all. So here within this fantastic shoot styled by Katie Grand, this shoot called What Lies Beneath, it sort of taps in with the swan again, but again from looking at this now from a sort of, you know, the Grecian myth of Leda and the swan, and this idea of the woman at once, yes, starting out as perhaps the victim, but then also that there's boys and men that are there too, and that they're the same as her, and that, you know, they all share this same sort of kind of angelic kind of golden yellow hair. This idea that men are feminine too, and that does gender even exist, and that we all have it in equal measure, and this just wildness is something that we can all embrace, and that women can turn on women, you know, and this is something that, you know, sites like Ruby and the Numinous talk about, and how the divine feminine has a massive kind of responsibility to look out for how they treat other women. And just, yeah, this sort of like amazing kind of, we don't really know what gender we are, but this wildness. So I think the thing is, with all of this apparent confusion, it could be easy to say that women in nature are just crazy. And I think this is something that Alexander McQueen really sort of taps into a lot, with this sort of postmodern portrayal of women being crazy, but actually women being everything and being incredibly important to him. As we have seen, McQueen is inspired by birds, and stylists can sometimes make his pieces appear almost bridal in their beauty. This is a piece from The Horn of Plenty in 2009. But on the runway, it's quite a different matter. It's quite a different matter on the runway. So here we can see it's all about sort of being imprisoned, and you can see that bird's print there from the original Birds collection showing up again. So sadly, McQueen committed suicide just 4 months after this collection. So I think he really had this connection with the suffering of women, the suffering of nature, and his own suffering as well. Oh, this is good. Yeah, this is worth wrapping up on, possibly. This idea of the female and wildness kind of sort of, you know, it only takes for the golden eagle to lift his talon and do one's wingspan. I quite like it in slow motion. That's great. So this is, you know, pussies fight back and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'll just leave it on there, on that note, really. I could talk about this for hours, as you can tell. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you.